Hi there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are creating a light up card, and it's not going to cost us a lot. You can definitely make this work for your budget. Anyhow, I am starting off with a piece of, this is watercolor cardstock just because it blends really nicely, but I'm using some Candied Apple Distress Oxide ink. Now, I had thought that I was going to fade this out towards the middle, kind of go lighter and lighter, but you could save yourself the hassle and just get yourself a piece of red cardstock here, because I end up just covering the whole thing in red because, well, probably because I was being lazy and I didn't want to get out more colored inks. So it just ended up as a red panel, which is absolutely fine. So moving on, I do also have a piece of low-tech tape stuck to my fingers so that I don't get my fingerprints in Distress Oxide ink, because you will end up with fingerprints if you put your fingers on the wet ink. And again, you need to dry this thoroughly, and as I said, you could skip all of this by just choosing a red piece of cardstock. Then I have this Merry Christmas die, which I really love this font, but it has those ornaments hanging off the bottom, which I don't need at the moment. This die is from Alina on AliExpress, and I will link down below to her store. So I'm just going to cut off all of those little ornament bits and pieces so that I have the nice sentiment saying Merry Christmas with just the plain script. Alina has some amazing designers that design these dies for her specifically, and I really do like this one, and I've also been enjoying using it as just a nice plain sentiment by itself as well. So I have die cut it out 3 times so that I will be able to stack it up. But first of all, to one of the layers, I'm just using my sticky embossing ink. Now this is an older pad, which I don't mind that gets dirty. And I am just dipping it in the embossing ink and then putting some Wow Gold embossing powder on it. Now you can see that I don't get a very good kind of strike on the Merry word there. That's just because my embossing ink is a bit dry and needs to be re-inked probably. But that doesn't matter. All I'm going to do is keep re-dipping these in because I want there to be a nice thick layer. I do find that the more layers that you do, the kind of smoother it becomes. So if you find that yours are a little bit sort of pitted looking after you heat emboss, then definitely go back in for a second layer and you will start to get rid of that look, definitely. So I think I actually ended up doing 3 layers on this Merry Christmas, and that gives me the nice smooth gold look that I'm looking for on the sentiment. Before I put those aside, I am going to stack them up so that they can dry nicely while we move on with the next part. And that is as simple as adding some liquid glue. I get these glue bottles from AliExpress. I will have the link down below. And I fill them up with the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish. I will try and link that down below in case you're interested as well. So I'm just adding a tiny little bit of glue all along the word and then stacking up the next white one and then doing the same on top of that, and then I will stack the gold one on top. This just really helps the sentiment stand out a little bit more, and it helps it stand up off the page. So it does create kind of a more bold look for your sentiment. But you don't have to do this at all, or you could choose to use white fun foam or something like that behind it as well to give you that dimension. Next up, here is the stencil that I'm going to be using for my tree. So it has this lovely big kind of detailed swirly tree in the middle, but because I have the Merry and the Christmas that are going to go at the top and the bottom, I just want part of this tree. So to achieve that, I'm just going to block some of it off, and I'm just using a little bit of tape. And then I kind of think about the order of things. You can see I have that tiny wee star die to the right there, and I do need to die cut that out first before I start any of my embossing, because obviously I'm going to need to let it dry and things, so I want to get my star die cut first. So this is the part that is going to light up at the top of our tree. This is the light up portion of our card, and I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine to create the little hole right through my card. And then when I was looking at the star, I kind of feel like it looks a little bit unfinished. So what I am actually going to do is a little bit of embossing. Now, definitely you could skip this step as well. This is an extra one. This is a Versamark pen, which is basically like a sticky embossing ink in a pen form. And I am just going to go around the outside of that little star, and I'm going to use the same gold embossing powder that I used for my Merry Christmas words, and I'm just going to emboss that little part. Once I heat this, and I will show the camera nice and close what it looks like, I definitely think it's these wee finishing touches that kind of just really make the card. So you can see there it looks slightly more finished rather than just a little hole in my card. Now I have my card base lined up behind my card front panel, and I'm just taking a pencil and drawing the star through so that I know where it hits on my card base. Then I am going to come back to my card front, and I must admit I changed my plan quite a few times throughout creating this little tree, so you guys can do as you please and maybe not follow me. But anyway, I am putting down some Nuvo, I think this is shimmer paste, and I'm just simply using a plastic palette knife for that to go through, and it was this early on that I started changing my mind. So I wanted it to be a gold tree, so I tip over the same embossing powder that I've been using for everything else, and I'm going to heat set it, and it heat sets pretty much exactly like normal embossing powder, but the embossing paste that is underneath it gives it this kind of 3D dimension. So I actually really like the look. I don't know that this is specifically what you're meant to do, but I do really like the look, and it worked out well, so I'm happy with that. And then I kind of wanted to fill in the tree a little bit. So I am putting down some post-it notes. You could use whatever you want to mask off the tree. And I'm going to use some wax from Prima, a gold one, to kind of fill in the background. So I'm just using a little paintbrush to kind of lightly go in and around the embossing. I am going over some of it a little bit, but I'm not worried about that at all. The golds are pretty similar. And it ends up giving the tree a really nice shine. This wax does kind of come out really shiny, and so I like the look of how it ends up. As I said, this whole kind of video was just really an experiment, and I actually filmed this a couple of weeks ago and wasn't going to post the video at all because it's not the best, but I guess I'm posting it in hopes that it will show you how to make a budget-friendly light-up card, I guess. Now, all this first Christmas stuff is just the type of card that I chose to do, but of course you can make any type of card. I am just adding this Snowflake Stencil to the background using some Nuvo Glimmer paste. This is actually what I used underneath the Christmas tree, except I will be leaving it this time. And the cool thing about this paste is it kind of picks up the background color that you have, specifically if you've done it in like an oxide ink that will react. So you can see I have covered the whole background there, and it will dry to be clear and pick up that red tinge to it. Now onto the light up part. These are the batteries that you'll need, and you get 2 packs of these, so you get 10 for around $1.50. It's US dollars, of course. Then the copper tape off AliExpress is about $1.50 as well, and then you get 100 of these lights for $1.40. I'm going to use the yellow ones today, but again, you get 100 of them, so there's heaps to choose from in the future. So this pack, for around $4.50 or so, you can create 10 cards because that's what that's the amount of batteries that you are purchasing. So that works out pretty well. So here are the little lights, and they're kind of different to some that you have seen. You just pull the little pins aside either way. For me, we're going to have one going out left and one going out right. Now, guys, I want to have a really, really big flashing disclaimer here. I do not like this kind of stuff. Science does generally not agree with me, and I generally try to stay away from it. So this is the worst video that you will see if you want to know the finer details. But basically, you have to have a positive and a negative to make the light go with the battery. So one will be a positive and one will be a negative. And honestly, if you do what I do, when you put the battery in and it doesn't go, turn it upside down and it should go that way. But basically you need to have this little kind of flap to house your battery. So I've made that out of just regular paper, and I have one piece of the copper tape going on the bottom side of that, and then the other side piece of copper tape needs to go along the top side over the flap and then up the left hand side. And I'm going to stop it. I just cut there, by the way, and I did not cut the copper tape. It's important that you don't break the circuit by cutting the copper tape early. Then I am going to use my little light bulb, and I've got one leg of it going one way and one going out the other, and it needs to touch each of those pieces, of copper tape. So I'm just using a little bit of tape to hold it down there. So you can see here I put the battery in and close it, and it doesn't go. Turn the battery around and my light goes. So what I suggest is that you watch another video to see the finer details of how to make this circuit and things, because I am describing it terribly. But then this is the materials that you can use to make it for a budget-friendly option. So now you need to build up around the battery house with some foam tape, because you don't want the light to stay on all the time. Otherwise the battery will probably run out by the time you have mailed this card somewhere. So I am using 2 layers of foam tape, and then I have built the foam up around the rest of the card. Now I just fast forward through that part because that's easy. You guys know how to do that. And I have a little piece of vellum here that I have just colored yellow with an alcohol marker. And then I'm just putting some tape on the back of my card front so that I can adhere that wee piece of vellum there, and that will kind of help give it a yellow glow behind the star. So you will end up needing to press at kind of where the trunk of the tree will be to make this card go. And it is worth it to kind of keep checking throughout your process to make sure the light is still going as you expect it to. Because then you don't want to get to the end of your card and it not be happening like you want it to. I'm just cutting out a tiny little piece of sticker paper to create the trunk, and then I'm going to glue the Mary up the top and glue the Christmas down the bottom that we did at the beginning of the video. My card is almost complete, and as I said, this is more to show you and provide the links to the materials that you can make a budget-friendly option for a light-up card. There are definitely lots of kits and things out there and lots of fantastic videos that you can go to. So I hope this has helped someone in showing you how to create the card. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, I appreciate your comments so much. There are so many amazing comments on YouTube at the moment, and I appreciate everyone that you guys leave me. Thank you so much for your kindness and support, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks, bye!